All right, Mike, all you.
Great. Good morning, and thank you for joining the Boston Zoning Commission public hearing. The open public meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made. We'll now take a roll call of the members of the commission present at the beginning of the meeting. Please identify yourself as being present. Mr. Marr.
Present.
Ms. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Leff.
Present.
Mr. Arroyo.
Present.
Mr. Ostrich.
Present.
Mr. Woods.
Present.
Mr. McNeil.
Present.
And I, the chair, is present. This is our 9 a.m. public hearing. This is a public hearing before the Boston Zoning Commission to consider text amendment application number 530 with respect to residential uses in the Bullfinch Triangle District. The hearing was duly advertised on February 20th, 2025 in the Boston Herald. In a Boston Zoning Commission hearing on proposed petitions, the proponent will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the commission only. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. If you plan to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. You can click the hand icon on your Zoom control panel. This will signal to staff that you will like to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you're calling into the meeting and would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When we call for testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to unmute your microphone. Your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. Commission staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Finally, the proponents will be allowed a brief period of rebuttal if they so desire. Today's proponents is Councilor Durkin. Would Councilor Durkin's office please begin their presentation?
Good morning, everyone. I think we're going to get started with the planning department staff presentation about this quickly before Sharon Durkin's team. So my name is Jack Halverson, and I'm a planner on the zoning reform team with the planning department. I'm excited to be here today to provide our planning department recommendation on the Bullfinch Triangle text amendment put forth by Boston City Councilor Sharon Durkin. The draft text amendment proposes to change residential uses from conditional to allowed in the Bullfinch Triangle District. I'll let Councilor Durkin provide more details on the proposal, but we wanted to voice our support for this petition based on a couple of key points. Our analysis of the zoning petition is also described in our staff report on the proposed text amendment. The map on the right shows the boundary of the Bullfinch Triangle District, where the proposed text amendment would apply. After reviewing the text amendment for clarity in drafting, the proposal would not create any structural issues in the code. The amendment moves existing text describing residential uses directly from the conditional uses section to the allowed uses section. The planning department's zoning reform efforts broadly include reducing regulatory barriers for housing production and better aligning zoning with the built context, which we think this proposal achieves. There are no proposed changes to the dimensional regulations in the Bullfinch Triangle's Article 46, and Article 80 review would continue to apply for small and large projects. The proposed change is perhaps most important for the conversion of underutilized or outdated buildings to residential uses, and for property owners who would like to make renovations or updates to their existing buildings and may otherwise get flagged for nonconformity with respect to residential use. There is some appetite today in the area to convert underutilized spaces to residential uses, particularly through the ongoing office to residential conversion program. And so the planning department recommends approval of the petition put forth by Councilor Durkin based on sound text drafting and the rationale provided for the change. Thank you all so much, and now I'll pass it off to Councilor Durkin.
Thank you so much, Jack. And I'll just wait a second for my slides to come up. Okay, next slide. So today, it's a real honor to get to be before the Zoning Commission as a petitioner. Usually I'm weighing in on things before the Zoning Commission, and it's an honor to be with you, Chair Nichols, who I know is one of my constituents. So honored to have you as chair. This zoning code text amendment would make residential use an allowed use in the Bulfinch Triangle. Right now, it's a conditional use. This was approved by the city council in a 10-2 vote. And I believe that this would remove outdated zoning barriers to encourage housing development. Next slide. In October, I walked the area with local leaders, business owners, and the Landmarks Commission to understand shared priorities. Shared goals between the city and community include a more diverse, mixed-use neighborhood that benefits both businesses and residents, including more housing, which supports local businesses and economic development. A strong residential presence helps create liveliness, vibrancy, and promotes safety in this walkable neighborhood. Housing reduces reliance on office and commuter-driven activity, making the area more vibrant beyond 9 to 5. Next slide. So I think you all know sort of the history of the Bulfinch Triangle, but it was once a tidal basin, the Mill Pond, and the Bulfinch Triangle was filled in using soil from the cut down Beacon Hill. Bulfinch grew with transportation in the 19th century. It was stables, blacksmiths, local businesses on the west side of the Bulfinch Triangle, and warehouses, train, and industrial uses on the east side. And that's the reason for the existing zoning. In the 20th century, the elevated highway cut through the area and leveled residential buildings, stalling growth, and a lot of parking lots replaced community spaces. The Big Dig removed the highway, revitalizing the area with the Rose Kennedy Greenway and made it a more ideal place to live. Today, the area is poised for preservation and smart growth, and that is the context in which we present this amendment. Next slide. So right now, residential uses are conditional, requiring extra approvals and slowing development. I'm not expecting this to have, a waterfall effect, but any barrier that we are introducing to building housing in an area that's so primed for it, near transportation, shouldn't happen. So that's sort of the alignment of the community, the alignment of the city, and of my office just felt like we were in a really interesting time to put this forward. Amending the zoning to make it an allowed use cuts red tape, and this supports the city's housing goals. I know other zoning changes may be on the horizon, but this common sense change is a step in the right direction. And this is an article from BBJ from October 2023. It doesn't mention housing as a conditional use, but just note that almost every mention in the media of the Bulfinch Triangle is regarding how it's underutilized and could be a space for growth. So next slide. So this is our amendment. It just simply strikes housing as a conditional use and allows for all types of housing as an allowed use. And let's go to the next slide and I'll give a little more context on the community's conversation. So I did want to share that there are at least 11 open surface parking lots in the Bulfinch Triangle. This is the list, and I do want to thank West End Museum's Sebastian Belafonte for his work, just helping us put this together. But just for your context, there are a lot of underutilized spaces that are ripe for something, but I know there are some plans for a couple of these, but just for your context, while the Zoning Commission has probably a limited knowledge of everything the Bulfinch Triangle, I just wanted to make sure to include this context. Next slide. So we had a hearing. The City Council supported this 10-2. The hearing was on January 23rd. It's clear that neighborhood residents want housing and mixed-use development. The West End Museum and the West End Civic Association spoke broadly in support of changes at the hearing. Local businesses spoke in support. The Downtown North Association shared that residential uses would add to the residential base, which would support local businesses. I've spoken to developers in the area, who are ready to convert housing but are deterred by red tape. This is also a preservation measure because my amendment doesn't change the confines of the zoning code in terms of height. So really, this is just making it a little bit easier to convert housing and to build within the existing zoning regulations. And as you heard from Jack, the planning department supports this. The next slide. So I did want to just raise that we did hear after the hearing from some members of the community who were concerned about the mentions of lodging or boarding house and temporary dwelling structure. I do want to defend these diverse uses. Allowing for a variety of residential uses ensures flexibility in meeting diverse housing needs and typologies, which can use dated zoning definitions to meet modern needs of workforce housing, senior housing, social housing, and other models to meet the moment that we need for housing. And then all new structures remain subject to regulatory review, ISD, fire, and other oversight agencies. So I am not concerned about these uses, but I did want to just share that there were some community that reached out about that, and just ensuring that, you know, that we create necessary opportunities for them to weigh in on any changes in the Bullfinch Triangle. But I definitely defend the allowed uses portion of this and every single one of them, because it is very important that that we use sort of these outdated zoning language for future you know, modern opportunities. You know, shared kitchens, shared bathrooms. And I have spoken with the MGH president about the opportunities that might exist for workforce housing in the Bullfinch Triangle as well. So next slide. So in conclusion, this encourages new housing where people want to live near transportation, preserves neighborhood character while allowing for smart growth, strengthens the West End's revival by bringing new residents, energy, and small business traffic. And this demonstrates our commitment as a city to tackling Boston's housing challenges. And again, I'm Sharon Durkin. I'm District 8 City Councilor, and it's a real honor to present in front of you. So let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. We'll now move to questions from commissioners only. At this time, we'll take comments or questions from commissioners to the proponents, followed by public testimony. Drew.
Yeah, just one small one. There's, I think, a typo that was in the original, that's in the current zoning. It's, I think it's the 5th line down. It says conversation instead of conversion.
That we actually, sorry, I screenshotted the prior version. We did fix that actually we fixed that before it passed the city council.
Oh, because I didn't, what we got as the revised version didn't have that change.
Interesting. So I know that we talked about it in the hearing and that it was fixed. I will check what's on file with the clerk.
Yeah,
But it was a typo in the original zoning code that was copied over. So I believe that was fixed, and it actually was caught by the West End Civic Association. So thanks to them for catching it.
Good. I think this is, I applaud this this effort. Zoning is not is here to prevent to make sure we're allowing the right kind of development here, and I think that this is exactly what this will be doing. There's no need to restrict this further. Moving it to allowed use, I think, is the right way to go, and I applaud the counselor for bringing this to us.
Thank you, Drew. Any other comments or questions from commissioners at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will open up public testimony. If you are interested in testifying on this matter, please raise your hand, or if you are on the phone, please dial *9. Folks will be allowed to unmute and speak in the order that they sign up to testify, and you have up to 2 minutes for your testimony.
Terrific. It looks like we have 1 hand, 2 hands, I guess. We'll start with Dan Jaff.
Hi, my name is Dan Jaffe. I live in Charlestown, and I was involved a little bit in the North Washington development that was also taking place here. My concern here is that this takes away one of the walls of overdevelopment. As you well know, we have some sizable, very expensive housing in the West End area and dropping into the Bullfinch. And my concern here is not having any controls to prevent that from happening. I want more housing. It's not a question of not wanting more. And I want it to be sure that it's mixed, not for the elites. And that's the question at hand here. While this, the idea is sound, unfortunately, it needs to stay as it is, not altered into the change here from a conditional use to allowed use. I sympathize with Sharon. I want more housing, but I also don't want us to lose the character of the space with overdevelopment, and that's specifically for expensive housing, killing off the middle class and lower class that lived here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second comment.
Now we'll go to Carol.
Thank you. My name is Carol Matika. I'm the president of the West End Civic Association. And I want to thank Councilor Durkin for bringing this amendment to address the need for housing in the West End. We are aware of certain concerns in housing types and zoning requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to state that the West End Civic Association and our residents will continue to closely monitor all development in the Bullfinch Triangle of the West End. And we look forward to providing a much needed and valuable public input to ensure that we have a healthy and vibrant neighborhood. So I think that this amendment there's always things to be worked out in the development process. I think that I'm reassured somewhat by the statement that the public comment will follow Article 80 for both small as well as large developments. That's encouraging. And we intend to continue to have a voice in all development in the West End. So I thank you for the opportunity to make housing more accessible, and we'll do our part to make sure that happens too. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the only two hands that we've seen raised at this time. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will close public testimony, move into our business session. Any rebuttal from the proponents to the public testimony?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that Dan, who testified, thank you for his testimony, and thank you to Carol for their testimony. I wanted to just remind everyone that the amendment doesn't change the contours of the height restrictions in the Bullfinch Triangle. It simply changes housing from conditional to allowed. So really, this is both a smart growth proposal, but it's also a preservation proposal. So I appreciate Dan's thoughts. I care about the Bullfinch Triangle, and I care about its character and its historic quality. And I think that this proposal does both things. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or discussion from commissioners?
I had a question. In terms of new housing development, wouldn't it fall under the requirements of providing 20% affordable housing? So that, in a sense, to Dan's comment about, shutting out the working and middle class, I mean, I think wouldn't a new development need to follow the provisions we approved last year for affordable housing?
It's about the threshold because it's only over a certain amount of units. So so it is about the threshold, but absolutely, I think I know how expensive it is to convert buildings, and partly what makes it expensive is the regulatory hurdles we put in front of developers. So this is also a proposal that really seeks to make development possible for smaller developers who
Okay.
can't hold, who don't have the regulatory bandwidth to be moving from conditional to allowed.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Nice presentation.
Any other comments, questions, discussion, or motions from commissioners? Someone looks ready to make a motion.
My agenda open, hold on.
Ready, either.
So I don't have the
Nelson or
language
Drew,
in front
whoever
of me.
gets
I'll
there
certainly make
first.
a motion as well. I just don't have the language in front of me.
I can try, Michael.
Go for it, Drew.
I move that we approve text amendment application number 530, Article 46, the Bullfinch Triangle District. I think that's all we need, isn't it?
Second.
Second, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Mr. Marr,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
I think you're muted.
come back to Aisha, Mr. Leff,
Yes.
Mr. Arroyo,
Yes.
Mr. Ostrich,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. McNeil,
Accuse myself.
recusal, and Ms. Miller.
Sorry. Yes.
Thank
I'm
you,
like
Ms.
saying
Miller.
yes and I'm on mute. Sorry about that.
No worries at all. And the chair is a yes. That's 7 yes and 1 abstention. I will look to Kathleen or commission staff if that's enough.
Yes, CPAD. Congratulations, Counselor Durkin.
Great. Thank you, Counselor, and thank you to everyone. who worked
Thank
on
you.
this.
Yeah. Good.
That is our only item on the formal agenda for today. We did have a annual report that with Jeff's absence and Kathleen's voice, I think we will port over to a future meeting. Our next meeting, I believe, is scheduled for early April.
April 9th.
April 9th. Hold April 9th, when Kathleen will be back in full force and
Full force. We are going to have to have that meeting back at City Hall in the boardroom. The state has not passed a further extension of the COVID emergency order for virtual meetings at this time, so we are planning to host that as a hybrid meeting. We as the commission and staff, and we will ask the proponents to come in person, but we have a technology set up that we've worked through the BPDA board to allow the public and others to testify virtually or in person. So for some of you that were on the zoning commission pre-pandemic, time to run it back like it's 2020, 2019 again. For others, this will be our first in-person zoning commission. Jeff and I will be kind of calling all of you just to go over calendar for the coming year individually. We are under current state law allowed, if we have a quorum of in-person commissioners, to allow then further commissioners past that quorum to participate virtually, and know that that might be necessary for commissioners that have an emergency or something urgent come up, or something where they know they can attend but cannot be in person. But we're going to need to balance that with the need to have a quorum in person overall. So expect to hear from me when talking is less painful about this issue in the next couple of days.
Kathleen, one quick question. Since I joined the commission after in the post-pandemic period, where do we meet?
The BPDA boardroom on the 9th floor of City Hall.
Okay, great.
Feel better, Kathleen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Kathleen.
more information
real
to
quick,
follow on
can
that
I-
meeting. Kathleen, feel better. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We will adjourn. Thank you.
Commissioner Arroyo, did you have a question?
I just had a suggestion. You had, we were pre-scheduling, 2 days a month in the past.
Yep.
One of them we didn't always use, but I wanted to suggest that we, maybe continue to adopt that model. That way it helps
Yep.
us build a calendar. My
Yep.
calendar fills up pretty fast, so even if we don't use it, it was very helpful.
That's good to know, and that's actually part of what Jeff and I were gonna ask you all, talking individually, is to try and block off both days. We will designate one of them an alternate so that you kind of know this is the one I can count on. This is if it's a really full agenda. But I can tell you now that it looks like May might be a month where we need to be able to use both dates.
Yeah,
right
that works for
now.
me. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good
Thank
good
you
St.
all.
Patty's.
Great to see everybody.
Bye-bye.